Okay, welcome back for part two of this video. It only lets me record a certain amount at a time. So now we're going to move into methods of delivery and to help you with some delivery techniques. So let's go ahead and move on. Not too much longer, I'm almost finished. Methods of delivery. There are 4 different ways to deliver a speech. Manuscript. That is when you actually read a speech word for word, and sometimes you have to read a speech from manuscript. When the president speaks, he has to read from a manuscript word for word because he is being scrutinized by the press and enemies and everything. So he can't ad lib or put any of his own words into it. When the Pope does his proclamation, it's from manuscript. When an engineer or somebody does a report with a lot of numbers, it's usually written word for word. So that's manuscript. Reciting from memory. It used to be impressive years ago to give a speech by memorizing it, but it's no longer impressive because when you try to memorize something, you're worried about what you're going to say next and if you're going to remember it, and you're not communicating with your audience. You're losing your eye contact and you're not looking at feedback. An impromptu speech is something that you'll give a lot in your life. My face-to-face classes, we do an exercise on this, and that's with little or no preparation. You're in a meeting and all of a sudden you get called on to say a few words. So you have to try and be as professional as you can when you speak impromptu. And there's ways you can do that. There's all kinds of videos, TED Talks on impromptu speaking that you can check out. You can practice it too. When you've heard of elevator speeches, you could introduce yourself in an elevator. When you talk to a customer sales representative, you can speak impromptu and speak very professionally, just with little or no preparation. Now, extemporaneous is what we try to do in this class. With you prepare your speech well in advance, but when you go to deliver it, it has good conversational quality, and all you need is a few notes to refer to. Okay, now your voice has a lot to do with your delivery. These things you can use all of these things in your delivery. Of course, volume is how high or low your voice is. Your pitch is how fast, your rate is how fast or slow. Your pitch is whether you're asking a question or saying a statement. It can determine whether you're being sincere or upset. We all know how to use our pitch when we talk to our significant others. Pauses is something that's really hard for beginning speakers to do, but you'll learn that pauses are very effective in speaking. They can signal the end of a thought, give it time to sink in. So pauses are hard for beginning speakers, but you'll find, especially if you're going to be a teacher, how effective pauses can be. I'm going to have to pause myself here for a minute because I've got someone barking in the background. Okay, vocal variety is when you just use all of these different things. You go faster or slower, you speak higher or lower, you pause. That's vocal variety, and that's what we do in our everyday conversation, and that's what's expected when you give a speech. Now, pronunciation or articulation is just speaking clearly, saying your words crisply and clearly.
Grace, come here.
Dialect. There are 4 different dialects in our country. There is Northern, Southern, Eastern, and then there's General. The General dialect is what you hear from a lot of news reporters and radio commentators. They don't really have an accent at all, but you know what Northern and Southern and Eastern sounds like. And what do you think we are here in West Virginia? Are we Southern or Eastern? I think we're probably a little bit of both, but you decide. Okay. Now, we're moving into visual aids. You are required to use a visual aid for this round. There's all kinds of different visual aids. There's photos and drawings. Since you're giving this speech online, you would probably be okay just to show us a photo. In my face-to-face classes, a photo does not work if it's a normal size photo because you can't see it in the back. Whatever you see, whatever you use, you have to make sure it can be seen by everyone. You have graphs, you have charts, you can use a video clip, you can use your own body. to demonstrate something. I've had football players demonstrate how to throw or how to do defensive moves. Okay, this is an example, and I hope I have time for this, of an informative speech using a visual aid. Notice the introduction, the conclusion, the eye contact, the connective words, and how the visual aid is incorporated.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, tsunamis. We're familiar with these natural disasters. But for all the death and destruction they cause, they're minuscule compared to the full force of planet Earth. Beneath our feet are what National Geographic calls sleeping giants. They stir occasionally, but will someday wake up and roar with unprecedented force. What are these sleeping giants? In a word, supervolcanoes. Supervolcanoes don't erupt often, but when they do, they transform our world. As a geoscience major, I've been fascinated by supervolcanoes for a long time. After doing research for this speech. Today, we'll first examine the mechanics of supervolcanoes. Second, we'll examine the way they shape our world. And third, we'll look at a supervolcano that's located right here in the United States. Let's begin with the mechanics. Supervolcanoes are the result of massive magma pools beneath the Earth's surface. Magma consists primarily of molten rock. As a 2014 article in the journal Nature Geoscience explains, magma seeps from deep in the Earth into giant chambers in the Earth's crust, where it cools and hardens. Over time, more magma seeps into the chamber and pushes it towards the surface. Over tens of thousands or even millions of years, enough pressure builds to produce a supervolcano. Scientists have created a scale to measure volcanic eruption. It's called the Volcanic Explosivity Index, or VEI, and it's based on the amount of debris that is released into the atmosphere by an eruption. As seen on this chart from the U.S. Geological Survey website, the VEI consists of an 8-step scale. Each step is 10 times more powerful than the preceding step. A supervolcano is up here, at the top, VEI 8. For comparison, the famous eruption of Mount Vesuvius that buried the ancient Roman city of Pompeii in 79 AD is down here, at VEI 5. A supervolcano eruption would be at least 250 times more powerful than Mount Vesuvius. According to science writer Amanda D'Amato, a supervolcano eruption is like 1,000 atomic bombs going off every second. Now that we understand some of the basics of supervolcanoes, let's take a look at the way they've shaped our world. According to the BBC, scientists have identified 15 supervolcanoes. As you can see from this map, most are located in East Asia, North America, and South America. The telltale sign of an ancient supervolcano is a giant crater known as a caldera. The photo you see here is a caldera that is now Lake Toba in Indonesia. The largest volcanic lake in the world, it was created by a super eruption 75,000 years ago. This aerial view from a NASA satellite gives you a sense of the Toba caldera, which is 18 miles wide and 60 miles long. But supervolcanoes don't just affect the immediate area. According to a report on NPR, the amount of ash propelled into the atmosphere by a supervolcano eruption could darken the sky around the world for so long that temperatures decrease by an average of 20 degrees Fahrenheit. A 2017 study in Nature Communications states that supervolcano eruptions can cause earthquakes, landslides, and tsunamis that last for tens of thousands of years. Fortunately, the likelihood of any of us being around for a super eruption is almost non-existent. The last one occurred in New Zealand 26,500 years ago. But there is a supervolcano right here in the United States. It's responsible for this, which I visited last summer. This is Old Faithful, one of 500 geysers at Yellowstone National Park. The park is also home to hundreds of hydrothermal pools, like the one you see here, which is larger than a football field. The geysers and hydrothermal pools are some of the most beautiful sights above ground at Yellowstone. But things are quite different beneath the surface. What's down there? First, there is a large magma chamber. One day, perhaps thousands of years from now, another supervolcano will explode again, changing our world forever. But this is no reason for us to be alarmed today. In fact, to me, it's cause for awe at these sleeping giants. 40,000 years ago, in a truly massive eruption. According to the U.S.
Okay, I'm going to move on because I'm running out of time a little bit. I will show you some more examples when I give you the round 2 assignment. Here's some examples that I give my face-to-face students on using speaking notes. And it's just so you don't read your speech. Make your notes. Just put your keywords down. Tell yourself when you need to change a slide if you're using a slide. Put some connective words in there. Put some cues in there to help you along. Okay, just a few things about recording online speeches. You need to do your best to control your visual environment, your nonverbal communication. When you speak online, it shows all your blinks. If you move too fast, and if you're old like me, it shows your wrinkles. So, so just practice and take a look. You know, be sure you preview it before you post your recording. And here's an example. This first picture looks like a selfie, okay? And that's not really the best way to record. This one's too far away. But see how this one is about, I think if you sit like 2 to 3 feet from your camera on your recording device is the best way. And notice how he's looking at the camera and not at himself on the desktop. And again, this might be hard for some of you to do, but if you can control your visual environment, I have actually a little partition behind me so it blocks off everything and hanging on the walls in the house. And you have to be careful of the sunlight too. It might affect your vision or your your lighting. So notice how this one's so much easier to see. Okay, so do your best to control your visual environment as well. And so that's all I wanted to go over with you today, and I had to make this in 2 parts. So I will hopefully this will help you just a little bit. I hope you didn't get too confused by it. And when I give you the round 2 assignment, I'll give you some more examples of speeches. So just remember to speak conversationally, do a lot of preparation and practice. Know that you will be graded on your introduction, your conclusion, the body of your speech using connective words, and especially your eye contact. So I'll be checking in with you more, and good luck to you on round 2.